Before we start, the name is at the top right of the screen. Our female protagonist tells Dillion to snap out of it. He realizes he's lost his mind, and without a doubt it's definitely destruction. Realizing she needs to get out of here, she tries to push him off her, but he doesn't budge. Grabbing her roughly, he shouts at her if she cannot hear him. Instinctively, her hand fumbles in the darkness until it finds a rock. With a surge of adrenaline, she grasps it tightly and swings with all her might, the rock connecting solidly with him. The man she just knocked out is Dillion Sinnes, the young master of Sinnes Duchy with power comparable to the king. The source of destruction. He's the villain of the novel she has been transmigrated into, also known as the Cursed Monster Duke. The blackthorns that extend from his heart to his throat are the sign of a curse. It puts him in a crazy state of mind, and it will only fade away after taking the person's life. She knocked out the Monster Duke in that state. However, she could not leave him to die like that after she picked him up and treated him. This man, when he woke up, questioned her where he was and who she was. That's when she found out he had lost his memory. He pleaded with her to be honest, and she did not have to hide anything for his sake. Noticing her discomfort, he asked if she was being uncomfortable because he was a noble. She was confused and wondered if his memory returned because she never told him he was a noble. He expressed that when he saw her, his heart beated faster. He also revealed his head hurt like it's going to explode, and he felt dizzy. She knew it was because of her hitting him. He also apologized for forgetting everything, catching her off guard. Suddenly, he sat on one knee promising that he would take responsibility. She was confused and wondered what he was saying. He held her hand and kissed her knuckles, promising that forever he will be by her side. She was taken aback because they were never in that kind of relationship. In her past life, our female protagonist was immersed in this novel. In this novel, Saint Aina is the protagonist who is a saint and has inherited the power of God. She had 3 men protecting her side: Prince Cassis, Magician Schumann, and Knight Fabian. It's a romance fantasy novel about them protecting the world from evil. The strengthening adversaries test Aina like a trial, breaking the world, tearing and bringing about its destruction. In order to protect the world she loves, she even sacrificed her life. After she dies, the empire falls, and in the end, all the imperial citizens die. It's truly a tragic ending. She then reveals how she vanished away from her world like she was swept away, and possessed an extra whose name was not even known. She possessed the body of Priestess Lee. In the novel, she is in a time where the events in the novel haven't started yet, so nothing much has happened yet. But she is aware there is not much time left now, and she will have to hide and assess the situation. She knows continuing to stay in the temple increases the risk of getting involved with the saint. All she can remember is that the sacred power gets exploited in the temple. She was just looking for the right day to find an opportunity to escape. She did not even feel guilty about stealing from the temple and decided she had the chance and she should quickly loot and escape. In the midst of the chaos, her hand brushes against something unexpected, a holy relic, emitting a radiant glow. As she gazes in awe at the luminous artifact, a brilliant light bursts forth from it, illuminating the cavern. Then, as if summoned by the sacred energy, a majestic bird materializes before her. The bird introduces himself as Nathan and asks if she was the one who woke him up. However, she starts running and thinks, why on earth would a deity follow an extra? However, the bird is insistent in following her and questions why she is rushing off like that. He informs her he is her guardian deity and she is his contractor. She realizes rather than being caught while trying to return the deity and spending her whole life having her powers drain until she dies, it's better to escape by becoming a deity-napping criminal. She succeeded in escaping from the temple safely. For that, she went to the furthest place she could go with the money she had. She headed towards the border town of Wilhelm. She then worked hard to earn money to live there comfortably. They spent a lot of their days alone. Nathan and she had become like a family. After getting so used to living so quietly, she decided that before the novel starts, she would leave the empire with Nathan. One day, as she wandered through the jungle, she stumbled upon Dillion lying injured and unconscious on the forest floor, his presence alarming and his condition worrisome. She freaked out, wondering what had made them cross their paths. She told Nathan they needed to get someone, but Nathan stated that looking at his state, he does not have much time left anyway, and he won't hold until then. But she was persistent in saving him and told him, with divine power it won't take long. Her conscience did not allow her to abandon a dying person. She requested Nathan to go get a carriage. She decided to just treat him a little and then send him to the temple. She knew she was capable of doing this much. However, suddenly he grabbed her dress and opened his eyes. Caught in his unyielding grip, she implored him to release him because she didn't want to die. He fainted again, causing her to worry. She wondered what she should do. She was really in big trouble. Lee Dillies is an extra for the novel, and now she accidentally got acquainted with the villain. She thinks even though she was about to die herself, she still could not just leave him there. So she brought him with her. And what should she do now? Nathan tells her that he noticed earlier that she seems to know the guy and wants to know who he is. She tells him she just knew him from before. She tells him he is Dillian Sines, and he was born under a curse. Instead of blessing the newborn, people were busy spreading rumors about him that the son of the Sines family is cursed. No one knew why the child was cursed, but one thing was clear, that child would have no power in the family's factional fight. Factional fight is when there are more than one person fighting for the power. Each person becomes the leader of the group that is supporting them, and the groups are called a faction. The fight between these factions of the leader is called a factional fight. To cure the curse, Dillian's parents even took help from the temple, but it was all in vain. The thorns grew more and more until he was consumed by an endless hunger. In the end, he devoured all life that came before him. He did not even spare his own parents. It took him a long time to learn to keep his curse under his control. She clenches her fists, scared that she almost got devoured too. She recalls how she felt at that moment that she was going to die, and that cursed thorn went all the way up to his cheek. She concludes he's definitely a maniac. Still, she feels fortunate that he has stopped. Suddenly, her eyes widen in horror, and she unleashes a scream of terror as she realizes his thorns are still growing. She grabs her hair and tugs on them, thinking what is going on. Has it not ended yet? She realizes despite losing his consciousness, the thorns are still growing. A chilling realization sweeps over her as she comprehends that if this continues, she would get eaten at any moment. She knows that the curse feeds on life force, and if that's the case, her divine power might work. After all, divine power is also a kind of life energy. She uses her divine power on him with the hope that it might work. After she uses it for a very long time, it finally works, but she still doesn't feel satisfied because if she had known in advance, she would have treated it right from the beginning. She then questions Nathan if they are going to be ruined too. He doesn't understand what she means. She clarifies that he is quite scary, so she was wondering if she brought him here for nothing. He assures her not to worry. Even beasts do not harm their benefactors. She convinces herself Nathan is right. She saved him after all, so he probably would not harm her. Witnessing her caring for him, Nathan also advises her not to get too close to him. He reminds her this guy has a curse inside him which is quite dangerous. She realizes Nathan saw through it at first glance. She wants to know if he has any idea about what kind of curse it is. He tells her it's an ancient curse. It's from a long time ago. He tells her it must have been about 1,000 years. Lee thinks no wonder the saint could not break 1,000 years curse. She then asks Nathan if he is capable of breaking the curse. He tells her even though the symptoms for this curse are clear, it's not something he can break, and also since he's hollow inside, he will continue to covet and devour life force. He suggests they should send him back as soon as he wakes up. She desperately prays that he forgets about all this completely. The next day, when she wakes up, she realizes she fell asleep on the chair. She is startled when she hears someone ask who she is. It's Dillian, whose eyes look lethal. She asks him when did he wake up. He rises from his bed, looking pissed off as hell. He inquires again who she is. She wonders what she should say and tells him her sleeping here wasn't intentional. Suspiciously, he comments that it's strange, she thinks to herself. He sure is a maniac because she did not do anything, she just fell asleep. Suddenly, he grabs his head and tries to think what is this place and who he is, catching her off guard as well. She hesitantly asks him if he does not remember anything. He lets her know he cannot remember anything about who he is or what kind of person he is. Her eyes become glassy when she realizes her prayer has come true. Now she thinks about how they say even if the sky falls apart, there is still hope. She questions doesn't he even remember how they met. He tells her no, she thinks heaven is on her side. Being very emotional, she sheds a tear in two. He notices it and wipes it with his fingers, telling her not to cry. She is caught off guard and explains it's just that she was surprised for a moment. In the original novel, it was said that he did not like being touched by others, so she wonders why is he being like this. She was surprised when he certainly touched her. He then asks her who she is and why she stayed beside him. She is unable to come up with a reply, causing him to repeat his question again. Nathan intervenes suddenly and tells him she saved his life even though she was in danger. She panics and thinks he promised her he would keep his mouth shut in front of others so that her identity wouldn't be revealed. Her face shows how much she is holding back, cursing that damn bird. Nathan scolds him that he's not aware how hard she worked to save his life. That is why he is still being so shameless and ungrateful. She wants to tell Nathan to stop since he is still a patient. Nathan, who is on her head currently because he got so worked up and landed her in the wrong place. Unimpressed by Nathan's blabbering, he just asks the bird who he is. The disrespect makes him even more mad. He says who does he think he is talking to, and introduces himself as Lee's guardian deity. She says it's late, but introduces herself and lets him know her name is Lee Dillies and that she's not a professional, but she's an ordinary herbalist. She introduces Nathan as her guardian deity and her family. She also tells him his name and lies that he told her before he lost consciousness. He asks her if they knew each other before. She tells him no, this is their first meeting, and thinks to herself, this is going to create a lot of trouble. She also explains how she helped him when he was half awake while bleeding in the forest. He's quick to admit he acted rude without even knowing anything. Once again, she's taken aback by his change in attitude and thinks to herself he's more polite than she thought. She is aware in the original story, he is supposed to be a heartless bastard. Then why is he acting like a decent human being? She's scared that if she accepts his apology and later he finds out that he was the one who knocked him out, what is going to happen then? When he apologizes, she freaks out, thinking none other than Dillian actually apologized. She imagines a scenario where Dillian memories come back in such a situation. She thinks he would confront her about it, that she tried to kill him and then shamelessly got an apology out of him, and that to punish her for this crime, he would kill her. When she snaps out of her thoughts, he is still apologizing. Suddenly, she grabs his face and caresses his cheeks, telling him not to apologize. Her eyes are filled with worry as she assures him there's no need for such words. Something funny happens to his organs with her sudden nearness, so he tells her if she could please let go of his cheeks now. She smiles shyly at him and apologizes, and then asks if he's feeling hungry. She will bring food right away. When she is about to leave, his question to know something halts her in her steps. He questions again if it is really their first time meeting. She is confused, wondering what is the meaning behind his question. She wonders if he's not in doubt. Is he being like that because he's apologetic? But then feels stupid for thinking this way because no matter how much of his memories he has lost, he's still the same Dillian. She tells him, of course, this is truly their first meeting. As she is cooking in the kitchen, she makes up her mind to let this get done quickly and leave the Empire before Dillian gets his memories back. She decides to feed him something before she sends him out. On the other hand, Dillian feels something is wrong because, strangely enough, all of this feels familiar to him. He wonders if something similar has happened before. He wonders also, why on earth does that woman bother him? He then addresses Nathan as an owl who is quick to correct him that he is Nathan. He asks Nathan what's his relationship with that woman. Nathan reminds him, did not she just say that they do not know each other? He does not remember a thing, but he is sure there's something with this woman. He states to Nathan they treat him like a fool simply because he has amnesia. But anyone can tell they don't have a simple relationship. Nathan realizes this guy is smart, but how can he tell him that Lee almost cracked his head open? When Nathan tells him he has nothing to tell him, he changes his question and asks what he has done to her. Nathan lets him know he has done something terrible. He wants to know what it was because he doesn't wish to be disliked by Lee for this, but he remains quiet, letting him know that he doesn't wish to tell him anything. He wonders, what is she hiding? Did she approach him with ill intentions, or was she the one who drove him to his death? And now the whole thing is an act. Nathan says he should let him know one thing that's for certain: he should be counting his blessings. Dillion's eyes become blazing red as he grabs the bird by his head and says he's extremely loyal to his master by keeping his mouth shut. Even in that situation, the egoistic bird corrects him that the kid is not his master. Dillion says, "Is that so?" In that situation, it's even more suspicious then. He inquires what he's hiding and warns if he doesn't open his mouth, he will make it open. He transforms into an entirely different person. His face contorts in terrifying anger. However, when Lee makes her presence known, his demeanor shifts abruptly, and his face regains its normal appearance as if a switch has been flipped. She asks him if she made him wait too long, and then says the weather is good now, so it would not be dangerous for him to go out anymore. But when she looks out the window, her eyes widen in surprise. It's actually snowing really heavily. Dillion says the precious life she saved should not be put in danger, right? He tells her he doesn't wish to bother her, but she hopes she can let him stay for now. And he is willing to do anything. She asks him to do whatever she wants. She thinks about how Nathan says that people with divine power are loved by God. However, what is this that is happening with her? Because where is that love? God must actually hate her. Later, when Lee is cooking again, Nathan asks her who is she cooking so diligently for. She replies, who else could it be? It's for Dillion, of course. She thinks if she shows him sincerity and takes good care of him, he might show her mercy after regaining his memories. She has filled the table with delicious food and tells him it's not much, but she hopes he enjoys it. However, there is nothing in his expressions that indicates he is happy or he is pleased with her. Confused, she asks if there's anything she's missing. He asks her if she's uncomfortable. She wonders, how could she be comfortable? But then lies, not really. He tells her her mouth twitched. She again lies, that's because she gets facial spasms. He says if anyone saw her they would think she is his servant, but for now they should eat. She quickly rejects, saying she's not hungry. She tells him she was planning to eat later, but she guesses she is now really hungry after all. She thinks the thought of eating together makes her queasy, so she was deliberately trying to leave. He asks if this is how she always eats. Nathan replies on her behalf that he doubts it. It's hard to believe that someone who whines about being lazy and fills up with just a piece of bread would go to the trouble of preparing such a luxurious meal. He lets her know he appreciates her effort, but next time wants her to stick to the usual meals and suggests it would be good to take turns deciding on meals as well. She wonders if her attempt at showing off was too obvious. She states patients recover more quickly when they eat well and rest properly, and she wasn't planning to cook like this all the time. He comments, is that so? Of course that's so, she states. He smirks and teases her that he thought she was trying to impress him again. She starts coughing. He says he was just kidding, but he guesses there was some truth behind it. Wiping her mouth nervously, she questions if he's teasing her. Like a teaser as always, he says of course not. He would never do such a thing to her. She is surprised he knows how to joke around because she thought he was just a hard and cold person. After the lunch they are arguing over who is going to do the dishes. He says he's going to do it because it's cold, and that is the exact reason she was offering to do it. He continues shocking her with each passing moment. She cannot believe Dillion Sines is doing dishes and wonders what will happen when his memories come back. She wonders if he will hold her accountable for it and freaks out imagining him punishing her. She thinks everything she does just leads to a dead end. It's strange how the genre suddenly switched from slice of life to survival mode. Dillion jolts her out of her thoughts when he asks if he is doing well. She gives him a thumbs up and says he's really good at washing dishes, but in reality, she is dying because she just wants to tell him that he has mixed the oil with hot water. He tells her he is glad to hear that he was just worried he has messed it up. She lies that no way he's doing great while her inner thoughts are damn, it's so hard to survive. She recalls how until now, he has broken a plate, her broom and ripped a cushion. She frowns because he's disrupting all her household chores. He comes again, hiding something behind his hand. She wonders, what is it this time? She tells them she heard a loud noise. Is he okay? When he tries to explain, she cuts him off again, wanting to know if he hurt his hand. He shows her a piece of shard and explains he could not control his strength. She inspects his hand and tells him he's lucky he's not injured, and warns him that he could have gotten hurt. She states it's dangerous here, so she should go rest over there, but he insists on cleaning up. She reaches out, gently placing her hand on his, but his sudden flinch causes him to swiftly withdraw his hand. He comments her hands are so fierce. She wonders if she hit too hard. She tells him they should not touch the broken glass so casually. What if he will end up hurting himself? He is quick to add that touching with bare hands applies to her too, but she tells him that is different. She notices his hands and the scars on it and tells him his hands are precious. She blurts, if he's that concerned, he should help bring her a broom. He leaves to get it, but wants her not to touch the glass. After he leaves, Nathan comments that the guy is really messed up. She says she understands, but he's going through a lot. She plans to shift his attention to something else. Nathan asks how. And since yesterday he has started asking all sorts of questions. She suggests what if they throw the books in the warehouse at him and decides that's it. Later, when he has brought all the books from the warehouse, he inquires why did she ask for them. She tells him he seems to have a lot of questions, so she thought it would be better for him to learn from books as she might give him misinformation. Nathan also tells him from today onwards he should not bother Lee and read books instead. Dillion tells him to keep it down, but he calls him a stubborn person and tells Lee he really hates this guy. Dillion lets him know their feelings are mutual. Lee sarcastically thinks they seem to get along surprisingly just fine. She informs him that she will come back after cleaning up, but he's already engrossed in reading the books. Sighing with relief, she thinks she should have done this earlier. Finally, some time alone, and now she can get back to work. She knows that she can finally breathe now. She notices Nathan as she tells him it has been a while. She mentions that he must be excited because it is snowing. He responds that he can see that she is quite used to it now. She mentions that it has been a year since she started training, so naturally she should be able to do the basics at the very least. She mentions that she was surprised to find out that people who do not have divine power are unable to see this butterfly, even stating that what is more surprising is the ability to make the butterfly visible to them with skillful use of divine powers. This golden butterfly is not real, but to call it an illusion is also not quite right. These butterflies are like the flow of the world. They exist where life exists. The first thing Nathan taught her after escaping the temple was how to channel large amounts of divine power into making these golden butterflies visible. She has always heard that her divine power capacity is much larger than others at the temple. Nathan tells her that she is doing well. She questions if she does this, it becomes visible to other people too, right? She is aware that this is her first time going through this kind of training. She asks him if the Israeli helps, telling him that she is aware it is important to lay a solid foundation. But she questions if it is really necessary to do this training every day. He tells her that it is always important to master the fundamentals. He states that if she can draw her divine powers with ease, then she will be able to protect herself even when faced with a dangerous situation. She wishes that no dangerous situations occur in the first place. He mentions that she does not know the future and questions if she's not staying with a dangerous fellow right now. She is aware it is Dillion. Nathan tells her in a while his curse will want some food. She flinches as she questions again, mentioning that he ate till he was bursting last time. She is aware that she gave him so much food that even a sickly person on their deathbed would not eat that much. Nathan tells her that he guesses his stomach just empties quickly. She seems frustrated as she questions, "Cannot he just starve for a bit?" Nathan questions if she were hungry, would she be able to hold herself back from feasting on the meat in front of her? She remains quiet as he tells her to not worry as Dillion will not use destruction like that again, mentioning that his beastly vitality is enough to hold it in, unless there is some special situation. She mentions that she is aware of that. She knows that in the novel, the situations where Dillion uses destruction are few and far between. She knows that he is incredibly strong, and he is strong enough to protect what is his and control himself when his curse runs wild. That is why if it is not life-threatening, then he will not use destruction. She ponders, although she is not sure if he can still control himself after losing his memories, but she is aware that it will be her fault. Nathan tells her it will be nice if she could send him away before that. He also is aware, but the weather is not helping. Lee thinks about it as she is aware that if she hands him a book, then he will be quiet. She tells him to look at this, mentioning that this is the Roham Empire. She tells him that Roham is a holy empire. She tells him if he looks at the empire's long history, then it is said that Oblis, the one and only god, established the empire after creating the world. She states that it is located in the capital. It is the main temple to serve Oblis, and below that are temples named after the angels, who were faithful servants and apostles of God throughout Roham. As a holy buyer, the temple's influence is naturally fast, but the temple has no interest in politics. The emperor's authority is stable because the emperor does not keep him in check. The head priest has also managed to hold his position for over 200 years, thus maintaining the stability of the emperor's authority. He asks her, "In that case, is the imperial power absolute?" She responds, "Of course not. There is a bigger power outside the imperial." She tells him it is the Sinais duchy. It is a family that has existed since the founding of the empire, so it is possible that their history is longer than even the imperial family. Over the past millennium, the imperial family's lineage has changed families several times, but the Sinais duchy has kept their family lineage. In this way, the family's history can be considered one that grows alongside the empire. Dillion mentions that they are so powerful, but he questions if the imperial family does not keep them in check. She mentions, as he said, it is not that they do not keep them in check, but that they failed to and opted for peace instead. He questions for what reason. She mentions it is because the Sinais duchy ultimately chooses the emperor. The Sinais duchy has not gotten rid of the imperial family, so the imperial family cannot turn against them, either she poured her start. In particular, Dillion, the current head of the family, is too dangerous to turn against. She would have saved that honestly. The Sinais duchy also has no interest in politics aside from picking the emperor. She continues that they think it is old-fashioned and boring. She thinks that, as Dillion himself once said, that Dillion was indifferent to anything aside from her. She questions if he understands as he responds, yes, he does understand. He goes out to her, telling her that he has a question she asks him to ask away. He mentions that he does not understand. She asks him to stop as she gets up, telling him that she cannot do this anymore. She leaves as she mentions she wants her freedom back. Northern states that she's like that because he torments her too much and mentions that if he has any questions, then he should ask him, as even though he has this body, he knows a lot because he has lived for a long time. Dillion responds all right. After some time, Nathan asks Lee to not bother him as he will wake up on his own. She wonders that she feels bad for Nathan as he has been suffering all day. Dillion calls out to her, questioning, what kind of person was he? She wonders if he's not even tired. He questions if he has a family name and his status. He even asks what job did he have. She mentions that she also does not know before he asks her does he even have a family as she looks at him. She does, so of course he does, and they're probably doing everything they can to find him. He asks her if that's really the case, as she mentions of course. She knows that everyone at Dillion's side now has pledged their allegiance to him. She hopes that they are doing everything in their power to find him. Although she thinks that she might be in trouble if they do. She asks him to not overthink it as they will see them again. He looks at her as he states that this must be the truth. She flinches as he steps towards her and sits down. She stares at him as she wonders this. He tells her that this is the truth. She stirs into him as she wonders this. She begins to feel anxious as she wonders if she was caught. She wonders how much does he know and how many lies have been there since when she does not think that his memories are back. She flinches as she realizes that the important thing right here is that he kept her alive, even though he knew that she was hiding something. He tells her that even if he was curious, he could not interrogate further. He thought that there must be some reason, circumstance that makes it hard for her to tell the truth. She asks him so as he states that he was going to wait until she tells him what he is tired of waiting now. He asks her to tell him now. She remains quiet as he questions. What is she hiding? She notices that he is still as polite as before and wonders if this man has no emotion. She's aware that even if one loses their memories, their nature does not change. She wonders if her conception about him is wrong. She thinks that in that case it might be better to attack head-on. She flinches as she apologizes to him, telling him that she cannot say that. She states that if she does that then it will be dangerous. He questions who would be at risk as she mentions both of them. She ponders that she will get her head cut off and his blood pressure will skyrocket from anger and he might collapse too. By that time, she's aware that he regains his memories, she will have already left the empire. She knows that for now, she just has to get over this. She tells him that he will find out when the time comes and questions if they can leave this for now. He remains silent for a while before he mentions, then he will not trouble her with this. Hey questions if she can tell me what this is. Stating that looking at it makes him feel dirty, she tells him yes, of course she will let him know. She ponders that she was going to say something about the curse anyways, so she's aware this much should be fine. She asks him to please take off his shirt first as he becomes nervous, questioning. What does she mean? She again asks him to take it off as he covers his chest with his hands. He tells her that he asked her to tell him about the mark, and she's telling him this. He questions how can he accept this. Stating that with such sinister eyes, she mentions that it was him who asked her to tell him first. He tells her that he did not ask for this. As she becomes angry as she shouts at him questioning what does he think of her and states that it is not like he's thinking. She even states that she is not interested. She tries to calm herself down, turning herself that there's no point in quarreling. She tells him that she will be blunt and states that he is cursed. She mentions that the root of the heart is his heart and to be precise in his heart. Before she tells him that she is afraid, he will not be able to believe her if she tells him that, so he has to take his shirt off. She informs him that she has no other ulterior intentions. He tells her that he thought he just had something unusual, but it turns out that it is a curse instead. She tells him that she has more to show him and asks him to wait for a second before she slips. He reaches out and holds on to her. She grabs his shirt, causing the button to fall off. She looks at him as she ends up undressing him. Her attention turns towards his chest as she begins to blush, period. Then she pushes him away as she wonders what should she do, realizing that he must be angry at her. She's really nervous as she tells him that was an accident, stating that he saw it too, she was the one who tripped. He begins to laugh as she cannot believe that he is laughing, wondering if that is happening because he's angry. He tells her not that things ended like this. She has to take responsibility. She asks him what kind of responsibility does he mean. He states that she needs to think about that, mentioning that she has made a mess of him, and then she's pretending to not notice it. She questions what mess he is talking about, asking, will not anyone who hears this misunderstand? He tells her that she rushed at him just now, but it is misunderstanding questioning. Did she lose interest after seeing it once? She tells him to change his clothes as she pushes him away. He asks her to not post shame, mentioning that she's going to rip his clothes again. She states that will not happen as she blushes. After a while, she asks him to stand here, telling him that it is searching in constant intervals and the thorns start from the heart. She mentions that it gradually spreads out along the neck up to the cheek. He asks her what happens when it runs rampant completely. She responds that it sucks up all living life around it. He stares at her as he mentions that she is now aware of so much and questions could it be that it was in front of her that it happened. She tells him that is because she is very interested in curses, that she knew it as soon as she saw it. She ponders that she cannot tell him that he ran amok in front of her, as it would be hard to explain knocking him out after revealing that. He does that. He understands that. She thinks that it must be a shock to him. Do not remember a thing, even if she would be shocked to hear that she's cursed. Moreover, she knows that the curse will go on until it takes as many lives as it wishes, and it will not quiet down. She knows it would be better if it simply took the lives of animals or plants. She notices something as she realizes there was that right. He asks her if this is a place that she visits often. She responds yes, that is the greenhouse where her medical herbs grow. She tells him that she will give this flower to him as his gift as she extends a flower towards him. She is aware that Dillion, who lost his memories, will not be able to control the curse, and not being able to control it means not knowing when it will erupt. She mentions that the name of this flower is White Flame, realizing that he definitely needs this flower right now. She states that only a few people call this flower by name, and there's a nickname that is more famous than its original name. They both stare into each other's eyes as she mentions it is Curse Detector. White Flame. It is one of the plants which are sensitive to curses. This pure white flower, when it touches upon a curse, it turns black, and it is a literal curse detector. She had a hard time growing it, and she tried to sell it for a high price. However, they have to survive through this first. She tells him if he notices the color becoming slightly cloudy, then he has to tell her right away. He tells her that he understands as she wonders how much more do they need. She thinks about with one left next to the bed as his rarely calls out to her questioning if she wears perfume. She asks him what else. She turns around and their face gets closer. She steps aside back as she questions does he mean perfume. She wonders why is he so close. She flinches as he tells her so he guesses this is simple her scent. He leans over to her. As he mentions, it always smells so nice when he's around her. She questions maybe it is the smell of flowers before he states it is different, and he also states that he feels quite exhausted today. Grabs her hair as he mentions he feels at ease around her. Especially even more so when he detects his scent. Hey, let's go over here as she turns around and tells him that she needs to prepare dinner. He stares at her as he realizes that she ran away. She reaches out. It is already nighttime as she is on her bed. Nathan is right beside her as he notices something and questions he dares to come in here. He's talking to Dillion. As Dillion mentions he came here because he had something on his mind. Nathan asks him. So he came to a sleepy lady's room just out of curiosity. He asks Nathan if he told him he came here because of the secret that she's hiding. Would he believe him? Nathan remains quiet as Dillion ponders. He knew it. He wonders what on earth is she hiding as he looks at her. He is aware that she said that if the truth was revealed then both of them would be in danger. He wonders what on earth is that truth, wondering if that is his past or his identity, or is it before he questions if he has ever run amok in front of her. Nathan responds yes. He then questions if he ever hurted her. Nathan responds that she handled it well in the end. Dillion states he is aware that is a lie as well. He mentions that he knows so well and questions could it be that it was in front of her, as he remembers her words when she said that is because she is very interested in courses, so she knew it as soon as she saw it. He thinks that she knew better than anyone else because she saw it firsthand. He wonders why did she hide that? Does it have something to do with that secret of hers, or is it related to his lost memories? He is aware that if the effect was strong enough to harm those around him, then it is highly likely that his amnesia is also a side effect. Nathan responds. He guesses. Dial Leon wonders. Why on earth does that feel so unnerving? He calls out to Nathan as he questions why is he calling him. He states that just looking at her makes his heart pound, as if his heart aches like it is about to explode. He asks if Nathan would know why is that the case. Nathan responds that is love as Dillian questions if that is love. Nathan tells him, hard pounding, head in a tizzy and stolen breaths. These are the typical symptoms of people in love. Dylan finds the owls bragging annoying. He then wonders the sand that fills the room. Where is it coming from, and where does it make him feel this way? He thinks about what kind of love is that. Dillian mentions that Nathan is really putting a lot of thought into his nonsense, as Nathan questions what nonsense. Dillian calls Nathan a fat owl. Well, what if we just questioning what will he do without Lee? He might actually perish. Dillian leaves as Nathan mentions that is indeed love. Dillian cannot believe this. The morning appears as they are sitting in front of each other. He calls out to her and mentions that she said that she does not use perfume. She responds yes because it does not match with her lifestyle and what she can afford. So he questions, so does that mean the scent was from the greenhouse? She wonders why has he been going on about that scent since yesterday. She also notices him glaring at her as she wonders why he keeps on looking at her like that. She is aware that when he does that, she's afraid that he's remembering some things about her. She looks up and notices that the flame is still white. She ponders about the knowledge that Dillian will go amok again. She is aware that he's already making her so anxious that she could die. So she wishes for him to stop paying attention to her like that. Suddenly, someone knocks in their door as their attention turns towards it. She stands up wondering who is knocking on their door so early in the morning. Before she can go and open the door, Daly and stands up and tells her it is rather strange for someone to be at her doorstep in this weather. She questions what is he doing as she wonders what does that mean. She's aware that it is hard to move around because of the heavy snow and her house is near the forest. She grabs a fry pan as she walks towards the door with him. Do you open the door as someone soaked in snow calls out to them? She and Nathan gets frightened while Dillian remains unfazed. The person falls down on the ground as she questions what is that, asking if that is a monster. Dylan gets down on one knee as she asks him to not do that as it is dangerous. He tells her to calm down and mentions that it is a person. She questions a person as it turns out to be Claude. After a while, Claude states that he finally feels alive again. She tells him that he really decided to come out all this way in this weather. He mentions that there's only one reason why he'd even think of coming out in this weather. She asks him what is that as he asks if there's any heavenly ginseng here. She tells him there is as he asks her to sell it to him, mentioning that he will pay her 1.5 times the market price. She asks him to double it as she mentions it is Lee Deli's for him. He tells her all right, he will double it as she ponders that she was just throwing it out there just in case. But apparently that was the right move. He then asks her about Nathan, questioning what was he talking about earlier, mentioning that he probably heard it wrong though. She tries to play innocent and asks him how could an oak talk, telling him that he must be mistaken. She notices Dillian staring at him as she asks him to stop, staring intensely at Claude as he will stare a hole through him. He mentions that regardless of how long she has been working together, she really should not just let a man into her house like that, mentioning that she is really defenseless. She wonders if he is nagging her now just because of this one guy. She asks him then should she have left him to freeze to death. Redial, sir? Yes, that is right. She ponders that they say that a frog find it hard to sympathize with a tadpole. If he followed his logic, then he would have froze to death too, and he could have died from blood loss too. So she guesses that she will just have to get Claude out of here as fast as possible. She calls out to Claude, mentioning that if he's all warmed up, then he should follow her. She'll get it ready for him right now. He suddenly notices something as he suddenly questions, is that the white flame? He asks her to sell that to him, mentioning that he will pay double, no triple the market price. She mentions no way as she questions what about 4 times then? She mentions even if he offers her 10 times the market price she still won't sell that. She is aware that she needs that flower to survive. He begins to cry as he asked her to think this over before Dillian calls out to him, telling him to stop bothering her. He questions what as he mentions the flower is his so he can stop buying it. Claude asks Lee if that is true. She mentions yes, she indeed gave it to him. As he mentions this is crazy, she asks him if he could just hurry up and follow her. After a while he notices all those herbs as he mentions that he has never seen someone as good at cultivating herbs as her in his life, questioning how on earth did she even get them to grow this large. She tells him it is a secret and ponders that secret is divine power. He then asks her if she's aware who Dillion is. Bloody asks her, does not she think that he could be dangerous? As she questions why is he suspicious of the wrong person, and why is he suspecting an innocent person. He asks how did she know, as he whispers to her that he does not know if he is a criminal, but the reward money is huge. He does hurt the reward money, as she becomes shocked and questions if that is really true. He then asks her who is this guy, as she ponders if only she had that much money. He mentions that he has black hair, red eyes, and they say he has a black tattoo on his neck. She wonders if that is actually Dillion. Claude states that everything fits too perfectly to be a coincidence, stating that tattoos are common enough, but red eyes. He has never seen that before and questions if this is really okay, stating that he seems a little suspicious. She wonders who on earth is Duke Sines. She knows that they could have been the ones who hurt Dillion, and they could be hunting him down to finish the job. But she wonders, is not this a good opportunity? She is aware it is the perfect opportunity to get rid of him, but she clenches her fist, realizing that with the reward money she can launder her identity, and out with the reward money she could purchase a fake identity and go into hiding. She is aware that the ones who attempted an assassination on Dillion were just slowly assassins, so she is not too worried, although it might be due that was strong. She is aware that now he has lost his memories. That might not be the case anymore. She calls out to Cloudy as she mentions that he saw no one aside from her today. He asks her what if that man is dangerous and questions if she is being threatened. She tells him that is not the case and asks him to calm down. She also mentions that she understands his worries, but he should not be like that. She asks him if he has ever seen her invite a random stranger into her house. She is aware that she was also very worried at first and states if it actually happens, he's a rather pitiful person than dangerous. Is aware that she was also very worried at first and states if it actually happens, he's a rather pitiful person than dangerous. She asks him to please pretend that she never saw him as he questions if she's being serious right now. She states that it is a request from him as he tells her yes. He did not see anyone else today, but in return she has to do him a favor. She mentions that he is really shameless as he later thanks her and mentions that he will really keep his promise. She asks him to be careful as she ponders that she is tired. She turns around as she calls out to Daly and telling him that eavesdropping is a bad habit if he knows, as he stands there staring at her.